Okay, so in this first video tutorial and first project, this is what we're going to be making. It's basically what we call a micro world. So here's the first shot. It's a close-up of a miniature environment where the main focus is on these mushrooms, and then you'll be modeling the mushrooms and then UV mapping it and also texture painting in Photoshop. I'll be going over that, and you'll also be modeling. Here's a zoomed out view, this 3D cube with an uneven terrain surface. You'll be modeling that and then making the UV maps for this to start texture painting and creating custom texture maps in Photoshop at a certain resolution so that the image quality when rendering is going to be really clear and crisp and clean. And then you'll also be modeling these little patches of dirt over here and applying the texture maps. The other things, for example, like the wood here and the rock and the flowers, those are assets that will be provided for, and you just pick and choose where to place them and to set up a I guess set design for the scene, and also setting up the shaders, understanding more complicated shading networks such as the difference between color maps, normal maps, bump maps, and specularity maps, and rough maps. Okay, so again, the main thing you'll be modeling are the mushrooms. The mushrooms, you can also model it differently, where however I taught it, you can expand on it and make the mushroom look different, because there's different types of mushrooms out there. The reason why I chose the mushrooms is because it's a great practice in what we call organic modeling or polygons. So it's really fun and not too challenging. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the grasses as well. Those are it's an asset which is provided for. You just have to link up the textures and fine tune the shaders for it to give it that nice green, rich and vibrant color and look. And then there's also setting up the lights, a couple of area lights, Arnold area lights, and then there's the Arnold physical sun and sky to set up as well, and also this blue background wall. It's a special type of wall shader that I taught last year, and we're going to set up shaders for that. And also another one called ambient occlusion, where you see over here there's nice soft contact shadows. Naturally, the 3D render will not do that for you. It's a special software shader network. And then there's the next shot. What else? Also, for example, like the log, that's another asset. And same thing with the rock. You do have to fine tune the texture mapping for the rock. It's what we call repeating the UV tiles, or repeating the UV texture. And there's another shot, and then close up, another shot, and final shot over here. Also these wheatgrass over here, those are assets as well. But the main thing is that there will be several other assets available, such as let me show here. tree stump. Alright, so there's a folder where a main directory folder where there'll be a library of assets with its own name. And for example, let's see. Oh, not this one. Tree stump. So you could even put in a tree stump in there, for example, like this one. And then you could place the mushrooms on top, which in another tutorial I've done that. Not a tutorial, but an example, which I should show right now. Hopefully Maya will not crash. Alright, so where is it? This one. Alright, so in this one, another perfect example where with a different asset library, you could have a totally different scene. Where, for example, here's the mushrooms. And the grass. And the mud. You just have to place the grass differently each time around. And you don't want little things like this where you could see the grass going through another object. I mean, if you design it and decorate it more and more with other flowers, you won't be able to tell, but just something to be mindful of. And then so the point is that, for example, like this tree stump, it's a very interesting background to set up as a focal point for this. And you can just start staging your camera more and more, setting up more assets. You could put rocks here. There's also different types of grass, more realistic grass and whatnot to decorate the scene. And so let me close this out. The reason why I did this too is that to give flexibility and I guess the freedom to kind of design your own scene and not to just create whatever I made, because it'll be kind of boring that way. But at the same time, you still learn the essentials that you need. Alright, so for example, here's the tree stump. Then here's an example of the flowers. I don't have I deleted the example image. And this weird looking thing here, this is actually the model. It just looks like this. It's what we call a FBX file that imports into Maya. It's literally the 3D object. It's a universal file where it should go into other 3D software like 3D Studio Max. I think it should also go into Blender and Cinema 4D. So what else? Here's another one, nature tree assets. I should have named it, another tree stump. But here's another nice one where you can put it in there. It has some textures over here. So this is one 3D object. So you could place the mushrooms here or whichever and start staging the scene. With that being said, you'd have to first put in your main object first, then the secondary ones. Main object meaning the main mass. For example, if you want to put in like a tree stump. And there's like other secondary stuff. I don't have other texture files. I gotta clean this up more. Anyway, so here's another rock. And this is the texture image for it, the one that I used. And it tiles, meaning it repeats over and over again without seam lines, I believe. And these are the secondary texture images to kick it up more visually. And then All right. Oh, not well. That's another one. Let me see if there's others examples. Rotting log. All right. So here's a wild grass types. This is more realistic. So you could decorate your scene with this as well. Over here, several different grass types to decorate your scene. And it's really good because if you use the same grass over and over again, you could start to see the pattern, or just it doesn't look as natural and random. But if you put in like some of this and maybe some of that and some of that, you know, it starts to vary it visually a lot. All right, so that's that. So there's gonna be more and more art assets that I'm gonna be putting in here. These are my personal art assets that literally you have to buy from, you know, purchase it. I have a, I guess, a subscription for it and whatnot. So yeah, you're not gonna just find this off the web. You'll find one or two like decent ones, but most of the free assets are just garbage. But the free ones I already put in here, and the rest of them are my personal stash of art assets. So they're valuable in the sense that they're very useful for games, production, and whatnot. And as a professional designer, you're gonna have your own, you know, collection of art assets to use in production. So in this sense, this also mimics a real world production sense, having an asset library and how to apply them and whatnot. Okay, what else is there? So that's 12 minutes. Let's just take a quick look. I'll end it soon after that. All right, so looking around here and here. So it's, you know, a lot of it is pretty fun where you're just staging and setting up the scene. And for me in this scene, I just have a massive log over here to help ground the scene and fill up the negative space. And setting up the layer system, important. Setting up the names for this. And also, a good chunk of what you'll be learning is learning how to set up shading networks. For example, the flowers, learning about what is a rough map, learning about what is a bump map, learning about what is an alpha channel, learning about what is a diffuse map or a color map, and plugging in all into these nodes. This here is what we call a node based system. Very similar. Game engines use the exact same thing too, so it's transferable to other programs. And then, for example, this one, that doesn't have the other one, but maybe like this one. All right, so this one, there's more stuff. Here's my ambient occlusion. You learn about that, and you'll be mixing different types of shaders. Here's your first shader, and another shader, and another shader, to combine into something more special and much more unique and not possible naturally. So you'll be learning about that as well. And yeah, that's it. So, oh, also for the mushroom, you'll also rig it as well, having a simple bone system to it, and maybe a couple of controllers, and have it animated gently side to side a bit, and that way it'll be fun as well in that sense. Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much it. And the next video, we're gonna go over setting up the cube and go from there. All right.